So bhakti is more natural and common to most of the people. Easy. Easy to understand, easy to appreciate, easy to follow. Right? Jnana is not difficult. But people, it is difficult for people to, because people, that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 12, it is difficult, the path of Jnana is difficult for most of the people because they think themselves as embodied souls. They identify the body. So it's difficult for embodied souls to think free from the body, being free from the body. So then he says, then people for people bhakti is more natural, more easy, and both. Then he makes a statement that they are not reaching different destination, but they reach the same destination, both through jnana and bhakti. So what happens is that for most of the people, God is separate from me. God is almighty, right? And God has a form where I can communicate, interact. So that is a more comfortable, fulfilling thought. For that, they do the worship, they do the puja, they meditate with that understanding of God, which is easy because I am a body and God is also a body. But to think something beyond body, something which is formless, is very difficult. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Now, people who come to the masses, for them the bhakti is the simpler and easier way, right? So will jnana and bhakti ultimately will lead to Nirguna Brahma? It will lead to that. But it's for I will call says bhakti as a step before jnana. Okay. Whereas bhakti says jnana is one step before bhakti. They'll say that. So there are many people who speak of jnana and bhakti like this. Bhakti is much more sweeter, much more joyful, and much more exciting. Okay, so most of the temples everywhere is built by bhaktas, right? It's like there is a glorification, there is a grand celebration, all right?
Yes.
Huh? It is like a festivity is there. Okay, jnana is something is okay. God is everywhere. Everything is God. Okay. Even Bhakta also says that, but then Bhakta always feels that he is separate from the God. Okay. And he cannot even think that oneness with the God. That is oneness with the God is something which is actually considered as what do you call it? Sacrilege. So there are many bhaktas who say that I want to enjoy sugar. God is like sugar. I want to enjoy sugar, but I don't want to become sugar. So when you merge with God, it will be the sugar. You can enjoy sugar when you are separate from sugar. But when you become sugar, there is no question of enjoyment. So that is the concept for most of the bhaktas. Actually, once you have a merger with the universal consciousness of God, the mind becomes deeply serene. There is no concept of enjoyment and there is no concept of separation. It will become enjoyment. Like water, if I touch water, I feel cold. But water itself, does it know it's cold? It is. Right? To know it's cold, you have to be separate from water. So what happens is that in jnana, there is a merger takes place, there is a union that takes place, and then the separation drops. Right? You can always speak of love, you can speak of compassion, you can speak of wisdom. But if you become love, if you become compassion, if you become wisdom, what do you speak of? So that drops. Right? There's in the sense of I would say that in the bhakta there is a sense of identity. Still there is some identity. In jnana that identity is dropped. Okay, so then the personality is dropped. So then there is a infinite space. Right. So the bhakta says, I don't want to become one with God. I want to be separate from God. So I can have some enjoy some. I can do some bhajans, sing praise, sing. But if I become one with God, then there is all those things all this will drop. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to have a deep communication with the Kali, right? Interact with her, offer her food, okay, talk to her, right? Pray, sing, bhajans, dance, everything. Then he met Totapuri, the master Totapuri, who taught him Vedanta. Vedanta is I am Brahman. There is no separation from me, right? So that's what he taught. Then suddenly the separation dropped. Then there is no Kali mother separate from you. you are one with that. So then Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say that many of these singing, bhajans and dances came down drastically, right? He always says this is Nirguna Brahma or Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I want to go back to Nirvikalpa Samadhi, but I can't go back now. That's much easier, much better. Right? Then he says to the extent that he used to do that Sandhyavandanam and offer something as Argya to the God. Now there's nobody to offer. There's no offerer and no offered. So there is nothing to offer also. So that water fell from his hand actually. Right?
He himself is God.
I used to do Satyanarayana Puja every month. After coming from office on full moon day, used to do Satyanarayana Puja with a lot of joy. So for my relatives, it's known that this person does Satyanarayana Puja every month. So one day suddenly it disappeared and dropped. Something happened to this fellow. Right? So if you are not able to find separation from God, you will find, I can't call it as oneness. The concept of oneness or separation drops or duality drops. Just serenity, tranquility is there, that's all. That's Jnana stage. Also it's like this thing. When in a bhakti stage, you start singing about God or hear people chanting God's name and all, you start feeling so much of joy, so much of tears. Forget ourselves. Joy, tears will come down. In Jnana stage, it seems tranquility. Peace. Okay, then some tears may come. Not because somebody is singing about God. You seeing his devotion, you may feel tear. In bhakti stage, for the God there is a tears. In Jnana stage, there is a tears for bhakta.
What kind of tears?
It's joy. Joy. So it role reverses. Okay, you are saying something?
One thing Vikas was to me was love and empathy. These are very essential.
Yeah.
So, to get to the stage,
yeah,
it's probably true for both.
Yeah. That's the love and empathy is a prerequisite. That's why it's always Jnana is a Jnana. For Jnana, it's always said that without bhakti you cannot attain Jnana. It's very pleasant. Bhakti, what is bhakti anyway? What is bhakti means? Love. Okay? Bhakti is love plus respect. Right? Respect will come only for something which is higher, something greater. So bhakti, love for something greater is called bhakti. Love for something equal is human love or friendship, you can say. So bhakti for something which is greater, magnificent. Bhakti is love for something which is great and magnificent, isn't it? So that's called bhakti. Now, without bhakti, when you say bhakti is for God, but without love, can you study any subject? Is it possible to study any subject? Without love, is it possible to have any human relationship? Without love, there's no transaction or operation in the world. Some amount of love is required. Now, let us say somebody wants to learn physics. Okay, so he has no respect for the professor. Hey, then what will he learn? So love plus respect is required for learning also. Right? That love plus respect is called bhakti. For God also, if there's love plus respect, then this is called bhakti. So that bhakti is a basic qualification, basic requirement for any spiritual path. Now, if you don't have that love and respect, there's no evolution will take place. Right? So initially, bhakti is love and respect for one form or one aspect of God. So then gradually you realize that aspect of God is there in everyone, not just one person or one place or one entity, one being. So that becomes universal love. So this is how human being naturally proceed. So then still universal love is there. What is love means? I am connected to something. Right? Love cannot be there without feeling of I am connected. I am related. Okay, I am related to something is called love. Now I am related to God. I respect God is something greater and magnificent, the infinite. That's called bhakti. Okay, so I am there, God is there, we are related. I am small, God is infinite. So that's why they say respect and love. Right? So then what will happen? The God is there in everybody. Okay, God is all pervading everywhere. So in everybody God is there. I am related to everybody. For the plant, animals, the star, the sky, I am related to everybody because God is everywhere. So the bhakti becomes universal in nature. Then gradually it dawns on you that God is in me also. There is no separation also. Then it becomes jnana. Right? So earlier God is there everywhere. I am small, but God is infinite. So then God is everywhere. Then that I am small also. Okay, then is there small is a part of larger whole? Then if it's completely a part of larger whole, there is no separation between you and the God. That's called jnana. So many people stop at the level of bhakti and don't proceed. Okay, they get stuck. Finally, it has to become a jnana. Jnana means mind has to become silent, peaceful. I am not separate from God. Neither God is separate from me. I am one with God. And finally the conclusion comes, I am God. Not I am as a body, mind, God. That I am as the consciousness, the supreme reality, God.
So for a bhakta who has a separation feeling, and who is like totally surrendered, so will there be disturbance in the mind?
It will be there. It will be there. So disturbance will be there. Because feeling of separation will be there. No? So then you can see the lot of emotions in bhaktas. Right? That so much of
so will he resolve it like even this thought has been put by God, everything surrender.
When each person, each bhakta will have its own way of resolving, right? He says, okay, whatever thought comes, I offer to God. Something like that they'll say. So it depends, depending on different aspect, different level of understanding, they will live a life in like that.
But disturbance will be there.
It will be there. Nature of mind is disturbance. As long as the individual identity is not gone, the mind cannot be peaceful. So another aspect of bhakti is that bhakti is more of a concept. God is a concept. God is not a reality. for most of the people. Even though say I believe in God, God is real for me, they don't have a real experience of God. Okay, their understanding of God is only a concept, something greater, mightier, okay, magnificent. But that's only conceptual level. The experiential level, when you start feeling overpowering love, the overflowing love, overflowing peace from within you. Okay. So then what happens is that the God is not a concept, it's a reality. For most of the people today, God is only concept, not a reality. The God becomes reality only when your heart is filled with deep love. Okay, when your eyes are full of tears of joy or love, so you feel connected with everything, then only God is a reality. So many times that doesn't happen actually. God is a ritual, becomes a sort of go to the temple, do some ritual. You're not felt the God. The feeling of God is feeling of love. The feeling of God is feeling of joy, feeling of peace, feeling of connectedness. That may not happen to many people. Many people. So these people, these bhaktas, so-called bhaktas who are known as famous, they get overpowered with this love. It's not just that, it's a conceptual, it is reality. So what happens is whole body-mind complex reacts, the nervous system reacts. So Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to say the energy moves into the heart, okay, energy moves into the head, so he'll get madly in love. So that energy movement in the heart and mind, heart and the brain is called Kundalini. So that unless that energy moves, shakes the body, you won't feel that oneness and love which these people feel, the peak of that experience. Then till that point it's mostly conceptual. I love my father, I love my mother, I love God. So it's like you relate that level of love.
So, Prabhu, what triggers the change from a ritual to a genuine seeking of even, let us say, if he wants to be a devotee, what triggers that change from belief in a concept to...
No, see, the thing is, this is actually a very tough question to answer, right? In the sense, what happens inside somebody which changes him from a conceptual understanding of God to a real understanding, experience of God. It is an internal change. It's a deep internal change. Okay? So there is a lot of difference between the people who have a concept and there's a lot of difference people who have a experience of God. They are so different. Okay? So what happens there is the sense of individuality. I have a sense of individuality. I have only the sense of concept of me. And that concept of me I superimpose on God. So God is equal to a bigger me. Right? So that you have to a stage will come, God is nothing related to bigger me actually. Bigger me means ego. It's something beyond, much more magnificent. That concept has to sink in. So that sinking in will happen only with the internal changes, and that I call as neuronal changes, and what happens, nervous system changes. Just like, to give this thing, somebody has a nervous system, he will see some hallucination, hear some sounds, right? That sounds and what he sees is real for him because of nervous system, right? So now a nervous system goes through a positive changes, which makes him feel connected to the universe, connected with the God. So that change is what I call as fundamental change. Now how does it happen? It happens through meditation, it happens through prayer, it can happen through some serious crisis in life. I don't know what it means. There was one lady who came in TED Talks. Okay, she was a neurologist studying in she was a doctor in one of the hospital, neurology. And suddenly she started feeling connected with everything. Feeling of connectedness, love, joy. Okay. So feeling of so much of oneness with everything. And everything she felt is an energy flow in and out. Then subsequently she was diagnosed as a brain tumor. Having a true tumor in the brain. Some part of the brain was getting pressed. Okay. And that is in the right part of the right brain. Some lobes in the brain were getting pressed, and there is no pain because brain doesn't feel the pain. The brain tumor, there's no pain. A tumor had developed, and suddenly she was feeling so much of connected with everything that. Okay, now is she hallucinating? No, it's already there. The connectedness is there, but we are not able to perceive because some part of our nervous system is shut down. Okay, so that gets got open for her, and she was there. The tumor was there for almost 6 years. After the tumor was removed, she came back to normalcy again. Right. So definitely some physiochemical changes happen in the brain. Without that experience, the fundamental experience doesn't change. Okay. So when I say the bhakta or a devotee, I am sure internally the physiochemical changes have happened in the nervous system. From an individual-centric view of the world, it has become a more connected world in the nervous system. Now, what triggered it? Is it external or is it internal trigger? Is a difficult question to answer, right? Because you cannot separate out easily what is external and what is internal. Like a mango is ripe. And one crow sits on the tree, suddenly mango drops. Now, what was the cause and what is the effect? Both of them happen simultaneously. Similarly, if internally when you are ripe, some external trigger will change the situation. So the question is, which is what? Which is cause and which is effect? You can't isolate.
So it is true for anything, right? Same thing. There is no cause and effect actually. There are multiple causes and multiple effects. There's no.
There's no way to analyze the cause and effect.
So some people speak to devatas, talk to them, see them.
See, it's all depend on mental mode. So seeing devatas, speaking to devatas. Now let me ask the question this way. A dog sees the world in a certain way. Okay, dog has probably I don't know. It has no color. It's colorblind. It can see the world in a certain way. Okay, the bats, they see the world through sound. The fish sees the world in a spherical way. Now, are they experiencing reality? For them, that experience is real. Right? What dog sees, what crow sees, what monkey sees, what elephant sees, the seeing is different and the experience is different. But each of them, it's real. Right? So now the question is it absolutely real?
No, ultimately there is no absolute real.
Is it absolutely real? No.
In the ultimate analysis, nothing is real. What I am saying is, I am seeing you, I am seeing this. But some people, because of their yogic practices, they will be able to see devatas just like I am seeing.
That's what I am saying. It all depends. It's a relative experience based on your inner state.
All experiences are relative.
Correct. So now,
but these devatas, they come and guide people.
That's what I'm saying. They have that experience. Is it real? It is real for them. Is it absolutely real?
Absolutely nothing is real.
Nothing is real.
Nothing is real.
Now it depends on where stage of evolution you are in. Okay, that's why Sri Ramakrishna Prabhu, one person asked Ramana Maharshi, are there devatas? Are there divine beings? Are they real? So what Ramana Maharshi gave an answer?
As real as you are.
They are as real as you are. So if you have a reality that I am a body and mind, they are also real and they have a body and mind. Okay. If you have a reality that I am love, they are also of the nature of love, not a physical body. If your reality is I am consciousness, they are also consciousness. They are not the body. So question is, what is your mental perception of reality? What is your mental model of reality? That depends on what is the model of yourself. What you think yourself, you think of God as that. So if somebody is seeing Devata, obviously that person has a body concept still real. Huh? Are you clear? So then he is seeing something magnificent and greater in an embodied being. Is it clear? Huh. What you think of yourself, what you experience yourself, you experience the world as also that.
But why are certain yogic practices geared towards that?
Lokho binna ruchihi. There are millions of ways, millions of tastes for different people. People catch up something which is actually based on their tendency, vasana. What is comfortable, what is nearest to them, they take that path. Right? Every step is relative only, no? Where I was yesterday, where I want to move.
Everything is, there's no absolute.
There is absolute. Absolute is beyond our perception,
Right.
beyond our concepts.
Correct.
So more people live in the concepts. People have a what you call as perception. So based on that, they see devatas, they interact with devatas.
That's a manifestation of Shakti, right? Shakti in different forms.
No, the manifestation happens based on your experience, your inner experience of yourself.
So if it is there, then even the Kundalini experience is also not.
Yeah, I
It's
have
a one
said,
experience.
I have said everything is relative in nature,
Relative.
right?
So this is one experience. That is one experience.
Everything is relative in nature, no? So depending on where you are, you will go one step further.
But then why talk about Savikalpa Samadhi and Nirvikalpa Samadhi?
These are all way of understanding. No, if I say if nobody speaks anything, nothing will happen. So absolute cannot be spoken. Okay. What is absolute?
No, why people try for that?
That's what I'm saying. No, depending on their vasanas, depending on the imposition, what they are, they will try for that, right? Isn't it? So somebody, I went to this country, right? Everywhere there's some meat is selling. They're selling meat. Okay, I am trying to look for some vegetable. Okay. Now why somebody sells meat? They have, because based on their vasanas. For them it is food. For them for me it is not food. So depending on where vasanas are, I will seek something which is more closer to me.
If seeking is there, something will come up.
So any questions? Nothing.
Then why Gopi Krishna has to start research institute on Kundalini?
That's what I said. No,
There's no more.
No, why not? I'm saying everybody has some.
No, if that is what that's what something like a spiritual upliftment or something advancement in spirituality.
Yeah, it is.
Or is the current state not in a spiritual advancement state?
Which current state?
Any current state.
No.
At any given point.
So there is a further evolution possible for the nervous system. That's what Kundalini Institute is about.
Right.
That's what he's trying to
So
do.
if is evolution of the nervous system is a desirable thing, or is it called upliftment, or any state is uplifted state?
So nobody can answer that question now. What is upliftment for you may not be upliftment for somebody else.
Right.
Alright? You have to determine what is my reference.
If that kind of seeking for upliftment is there, where is the end?
The end is when that whatever his reference is there, with respect to that you will find an end.
So wherever at any given point of time, any person can say that this is my end point.
He can say. Who stops him?
See, as long as you see that some change in you, that is upliftment. If the
No.
change is towards
No.
the better,
If you
if
see,
change is towards the negative, then let it
No. He says, somebody says, for me is this the end? I am fine. That's okay. What? There's nobody can say.
how can you say that something is higher or something is lower is my question.
That is nobody can say. It's
Nobody
only
can say.
It's only for the individual.
Individual.
It is nobody says this is the final. This is the ultimate. Who can say that? Right?
in this book, Zen and Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, the author describes the same dilemma that there are multiple ways of analyzing a system,
Right.
and there can never be a conclusive answer of
Correct.
that analysis. It's a qualitative, relative analysis.
If X person has realized God and Y person has realized God, is X and Y relation is one and the same? Which one is better? Which one is absolute? Nobody can say anything. And not even that person. Right? He says, I have attained peace. This is what I am. Now, whether he has really attained the peace, nobody is there to give a certificate.
Only he will know.
You will know. That's why it's a sincerity. It's your own sincerity. You cannot cheat yourself.
How did he open a Kundalini Institute before Komal?
Huh?
How did he open a Kundalini Institute before Komal?
That was Gopi Krishna. So, if somebody says I realize God and somebody else says I realize God, is there a comparison? Is there a how we can find a relatedness? Are they same experience? No way, no. I mean, for example, you say that I ate sweet, and another person says I ate sweet. Now, your experience of sweet and his experience of sweet is it one and the same? I can't. Nobody can say that.
Nobody can say that.
Hydra. So this is all inner experiences, okay? Ultimately, that inner experience you cannot have a yardstick, benchmark and reference. You cannot. Ultimately, it's you have to say, okay, this is where I am, right? And that also maybe there may be periods of complacency. Okay, a lot of okay, because we want to maintain what you call as we are comfortable with the where we are, what comfort zone. I am fine, yeah, this is fine. Then life, somewhere life starts building up. Life becomes uncomfortable. Oh, is there something more than this? Like that you'll think also.
So I'm asking exactly the same question. So there is life that builds up, okay, drives. Now what is it driving towards? And is there an end point towards this seeking, or any place is comfortable?
No. Everywhere we think we are comfortable. Everybody thinks some place of life they are comfortable. That's why they are there.
But what is this life that is building up and driving?
The whole social and environment, whatever is there, there's a pressure, right?
There's a pressure,
right? All kinds of pressure, survival pressure, then the pressure to perform, pressure to interact,
right.
Social. So all kinds of pressure is there. That's what life is about, right? The nature exists pressure. You look at it in the forest, no animals. Okay, no animal can take a rest and relaxed.
Correct.
Right? Immediately if it rests, something dangerous is there for life.
Yes.
It rests, but even animals rest, their rest is very careful.
Correct.
Right? Even if a small pin drop of this thing, they'll have to get up and run, otherwise they will die. So alertness and awareness is there required, and life is always constantly under threat of survival.
Correct.
So that is true for us also.
Yes.
Constantly there is a pressure.
Yeah.
Right? So now in that pressure, we have to act, we have to react. So gradually over a period of time, we learn how to function smoothly without reaction in a peaceful way, because that's more comfortable for me. So this is where evolution is driving you.
Correct.
Now if you reach a stage where absolutely peaceful, absolutely comfortable, and you are actually responding to the environment without much reaction internally, then you feel fine. But what happens, people don't know that state. They'll go through some steps. One step, I am very comfortable here. Then life becomes much more critical. Then you stay next step. So it's like everywhere there is some.
So in this journey, till you reach a stage where you say you are stopped reacting and started responding and protecting your inner peace. Till such time you said it will evolve you. Right? But where is the stopping? Because the nature can raise the bar higher and higher, where is the end point?
There's nothing, no. There's nobody can tell you. It's only you.
So what I'm saying is,
Ah.
so far in the journey it has been raising the bar higher and higher. So where is the end point?
That is there is not this outside there's no end point. Outside it will be continuously, it will be increasing only.
Ah,
But internally you reach a point of a dynamic stability.
ah.
So that is your inner journey.
Somewhere we in the point ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ.
Bharat.
No, no, even the dynamic stability,
Ah.
one may think that they have reached.
Ah.
The external conditions can still raise it higher, no?
Correct.
So is there an external condition that keeps on acting on an atomic individual?
It is everywhere. The world is anyway constantly. It's same for anybody, right? For a sinner or a saint, Bhagwan or okay, any individual, it's same.
Ah.
It keeps on constantly putting pressure. But how you react to the pressure, how you perceive the pressure, is depends from internally within the person.
So the more work has to be done on the internal part to reduce the.
Yeah. But then what happens is that people at many point of time people say, so I'm okay, I'm comfortable, I reached, right? That point will continue until another something comes up and breaks that notion. So the Swami Vivekananda said, the journey of life, spiritual journey, is from one peak to another peak. Okay, every time when you're climbing a mountain, we reach certain level, feel comfortable because it's so tiring. This is the best place here. I can so beautiful view, right? So you think you have reached. Then after some time you there's something more than that. I can go off. You take some rest at some place.
Again we start.
Again, then you've gone to another peak because you don't know what is the at top. So you take some rest. Everything is fine. Now after certain days, there's something more than this. Then you start moving upwards.
So is there a top or is there no top? That was my question.
Topless.
Topless or bottomless?
But the question is, you want to be caught up in that cycle, right?
That's another part of the same
I think
question.
you don't want to be caught up in the cycle. Otherwise,
No, he is not speaking of external journey. He is speaking of internal journey. He is speaking of something called enlightenment. In other words, he is asking, enlightenment is there. There's something called end point, beyond which there's nothing. He is asking that question in some other way. Okay. Now I am saying that end point recognition has to happen within you. Nobody else can recognize. And very often we end up in many end points which we think we are comfortable. Okay, because we don't know what is final. Now somebody says, this I have reached the final. And another person says, I have reached the final. That's what religion is fight is about now. So my master is final and this master is final. They are not in the right. There is no way I can compare who is final.
Right.
As an external individual. And even that person who has reached final may not be able to compare what is the other person is being a final.
Yeah.
these are all mental references, right?
They are
Mental references are always wrong.
In the references. Now he is asking a question, is there something called final? Okay. Now that final is your own reference, your own point.
Now that point can be any peak, right?
It can be any peak.
Why? So something external is driving. Will it ever rest?
The external driving will never rest. Internal driving, you come to a ever resting place. That's why Narayana is called Narayana. Naranam Ayanaha. Resting place of human beings. The consciousness is the resting place. Until you reach what you call as consciousness, your resting place is not there. It will be unrest only. But in between there are a lot of temporary stations where it will be there. Okay. So the problem for us is that we don't know what is final stage. So we take every temporary stage. Nice place.
Kannur train, Karwar is attacked. Bogies are attacked. Then we come to Bangalore. Otherwise we terminated Bangalore. We don't know. Some engine comes, some bogies are attacked. Then we reach Bangalore.
One way is to actually enjoy the climbing part and just be with that.
No, the issue is that is there somewhere you can come to say, oh, I have reached the final conclusion. Okay, yeah, it will be there. it will be your inner voice, inner clarity, which will be there, which will say you, yeah, this is the final, there is nothing more. That is provided you are sincere in your journey. You don't suppress your own inner voice. Okay? Every time we have an inner voice, when I reach some place, something more. Little bit more is there. Let us go further. So that inner voice will always say, there will always devil's advocate inside you. Okay? Whenever it says, no, I am fine, I have reached my spiritual journey. Inside there will be noise. Is it true? Are you? Is it really true? Sometimes the inner voice comes in the form of wife. Sometimes it becomes outer voice or husband. So I have to be gender neutral. So then the question will come, okay, am I there? The inner voice will be there. Somewhere that inner voice will say, no, this is something more. Okay? There will be small voice. So now if you are sincere to the voice, you will heed to that voice and start seeing, is there something further? If you are not sincere, then you will say, oh, I am fine, yeah, chup baito. Relax, this is fine. This is the final. This is the ultimate. There's nothing more, I'll say. Right? There's an internal, this is your internal reference, internal judgment. Nobody can say anything. But a person who is on a sincere, that's why a spiritual path is called a path, a journey on a razor's edge. Now people think that razor's edge means what? Oh, it's very difficult to go, it will fall off somewhere. Okay, I do such mistake. I should not have got angry. I got angry. I should not have got tempted by sweet. I got tempted. They refer to the external things. Razor's edge doesn't refer to that. Razor's edge is about truth. Okay, you can fall from the truth. It's walking on the razor's edge is difficult. You can fall from the truth, not from the external symptoms. So you may say that you may take mistake temporary as real. Okay. A temporary station as a final destination and settle there. That's what is called razor's edge. Now who is there to judge you? Nobody. It's ultimately you are the judge of yourself, and that's very difficult. It's difficult. Okay, judging anybody is easy. Okay, that person is good, this person is bad, you can label. But to tell about yourself, to be honest to yourself, is razor's edge. बड़ा आदमी आ गया. I heard a lot of things about Google and all. So anybody wants autograph, please take it now.
I will not get it.
So if you are asking for absolute from some reference, no. But absolute, there's from your point of view, your inner journey point of view, it's there. That is, you have to hit it. You have to be sincere and you have to be, see where I am. From that point of view, you will come to that. So, but once you come to that point, you will have a clarity. Which, that's why I say, vidyate hridaya granthi, chidyate sarva samshayaha. Every doubt gets vanished. All the heart's knot, which is actually karmic bondage, gets dropped. And you say, this is what is called realization. That clarity will emerge in you. That many people, many rishis have proclaimed, this is the point, I have reached. Beyond that, there is no question for them. They have, to the best of their knowledge, best of their effort, with sincerity, all sincerity, they have reached that point. Now, if you ask me, if you ask the question, have they reached? There is no way to say. But for them, they have attained the clarity, peace, and silence. Right? Any questions? We'll chant Om Namah Shivaya for some time. Take your awareness to the Sahasrara. Chant Om Namah Shivaya with the understanding that everything is Shiva. Shiva is all that is there. Shiva is the only reality. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah
Om Namah Shivaya.
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 Om Namah Shivaya.